All right, so here's my trade on SPY. Um, this was a range trade. Yesterday, I think we had the first red day here in 9 days in a row. So we had 1 through 9 green candles. Only took it 9 days to get from here all the way to, well, actually, it took it less than that to get to all time high, but it's been all time high for a few days here. It's first red candle here. And so this wasn't going to be anything that I was going to trade, but today I was sort of running out of things to trade, and I noticed that SPY here, what I was realizing around this time, around 1 p.m., still had a few hours to go, what I noticed was that it was in a range. So within a half hour, it had created a low and a high and just stayed in between here. So clearly this isn't tradable, you know, a lot of engulfing candles, a lot of wicks, etc. However, just starting to dissect it here, during this time I noticed, okay, we actually do have some higher lows being created. It's not necessarily pushing up against the high. It's not like a compression up against high of day, but it is a compression here in the VWAP area. So you can see a clear, let me highlight it here. Whoops. So we got, okay, so what I was trying to say was we had a little bit of a top right here, which was then shown, okay, it's a top here, it's also a top here, and then it's coming up on it right here. All the while you have higher lows. So I did notice this ascending triangle within this sort of tighter range. So that was one sort of clue that, hey, maybe something is being built up and maybe something is going to happen. And then what I also did was sort of zoom out, and I put an ATR range here, which every day now, for the most part, the range was about $4. So this was $4 right here. And so if I zoom out here and show you, you can see there that we were only about 50% of its ATR, maybe even less, for the whole day. So that was another clue. So there's two clues there: this ascending triangle, and which was a compression, and then sort of the rangy day, which was really tight, which was also sort of a compression. And so I thought that I could potentially get involved here for this break of this high, and the target would be high of day. So what I noticed here was we finally got maybe a clue that some volume was starting to come in here during this sort of resting volume, and that was right here. And then we had a down move on less volume, and it held here at VWAP. So I thought I'd get in with a position with a stop down here just in case it kind of respected this higher low trend. But right away it went up, and it was basically on its way up, and it had made up its mind right around there. So that was good timing by me. It breaks above this 456.40, these tops, breaks above it, holds it, flags. I get in with a separate unit here with a stop down here. So I had two different stops, and then sure enough, it makes another leg up. And so really right around, so this was the first sort of clue that this might be working. And then as soon as it really breaks a new 1 minute high and then a second one, this is another clue that this indeed is breaking from this, and something's happening here. So really I shouldn't have partialed as many times as I did, but I was pretty worn out from over trading and trying to find trends in other stocks. So this was more of a product of emotion and not following process. But had I traded this like I'm explaining it here, I would have taken some money here, paid myself here or here once, but looked at this as this is a breakout within here, and the overall target is the high of day, 457. But we won't talk about the management so much here because I do think there's a lot to say here. So anyways, the other thing I noticed here is that volume did start to increase a bit. Nothing amazing, but it did, because you have to think we still are within this overall range, right? So when we're in the range, volume is not as clear, it's not as consistent, etc. But it did get a bit more clear. So we're sort of playing the breakout within this bigger range. And I do think that these candles got cleaner. The wicks got smaller, the bodies got a little bit better, and it had a clear direction. So we had more green candles than red here. And, fairly quickly we got up to 457 here. Looks like in a matter of 45 minutes, which was a lot faster than everything it had done earlier. So we get up to here to 457, and I get all out here, get most of this move. And then, but this is where the bigger trade is. So this is where I look at this as, this is a rangy day. It's not good price action to trade. However, range trades can be traded at the highs and lows if you can get the entry. And so you combine that with the idea that this wasn't in play. However, it might be getting in play by doing this. This is something. This is a change in character. This is stock isn't in play, but might be prepping to be in play. Now it actually is in play, and then now it hits the good range high and low, hits the high. So you combine those multiple factors with it's in play, it's now up here, it's especially in play. Let's watch the tape and the level 2 and let's see what happens. So there's one of two things that can really happen. If the stock is in play and it's now wanting to move and volume comes in, we're either going to get a continuation and a breakout with new volume to the upside, or we're going to get a rejection here and we're going to get a opposite reaction move where it goes down hard. Because that's where these range trades work. They work for either the move back up to the top or the move back down, at least to the middle, and then hopefully, towards the bottom. So here's what happened. So we get up here, we get up to 457, and let me back up a little bit so you don't see all that volume just yet. So you can see the change in volume. So here you can see volume start to kick in. You can see there was a big ask at 457 up here, and really right here we just started seeing bigger orders come in and a battle coming in here. So it goes up, comes down, lots of orders, starts battling in here, finally hits the 457 ask. We don't have much continuation. Now it's sort of pulling back and just hovering here. So I really wasn't sure what it was doing, but I was more short bias here. And sure enough, we get a wick down, we get it back up, and then we get the flush down, and then we get volume confirmation. So I got in risking here with the idea that this was indeed going to VWAP and we could potentially get a high to low trade. And that's exactly what happened, and this was really cool. So you can see here that, and I'll just show you the whole thing, and let me spread this out a bit. So yeah, hits up there, sells off, quickly goes down to here. So this is an important support, right? Because this was where it broke out earlier. So this was the breakout point. So it does hold here, and in fact it holds for a good half hour almost, until it eventually breaks down. So this makes sense that this held. This was a decent level within the day. And you could see here that this was almost more important than VWAP, because VWAP, it only took it a few minutes and it ripped right through it. This was more of the level, and I think once it got under here, it sort of gave a cascade of stop outs and maybe even a mixture of maybe some news or something with this kind of move. But it definitely worked well. You can see here some wicks as it made its way down, and then here it just straight up was gone. Full body moves. And this is what you get with these range trades. When you get a good range and you get a rejection at the edge, you get a nice move towards the bottom, and then you combine that with the end of the day momentum and the end of the day volume that a lot of times comes in. You can get these extreme moves the opposite way. So this is really just a clear range trade that when works properly can have an opposite reaction that breaks it out of the other way. So that's what happened. I held my last few shares towards the end just to kind of make this look pretty, but I really partialed a lot of it in here, and just some of it in here. Really, if I had traded this better, I would have made a bigger trade off of it, but still happy with it and thought this was a pretty cool trade. And again, you know, these aren't good to trade unless you can get to the tops and bottom and unless you can notice a range day. I think the opposite could have been said. If this had compressed and broke down and hit here, I would have very well watched the tape and watched the volume here and would have looked to either trade it long or trade it short. I think your risk reward would have been great just as much down here as it is up there, because it shows here that this was a level today, and now it's down here again. Same thing up here. This was respected, and right there, and you can see on the 5-minute chart here that this top here was a level from yesterday. It's not the cleanest, but yesterday we got even higher at the all-time high, couldn't hold it, got under it, respected it, and then got down. So this was a level that was created somewhat yesterday, came up, couldn't really break it. Okay, and so we say this is sort of an inflection between this high and low of yesterday. Then today, it just so happens that this range is now, this level is intensified because it was a level over here. So now this is respected even more. So you can see how this level is more important than this one. So really, had it broken down here, I wouldn't have liked it as much here because it wasn't as strong as this one, because this one was almost tested 3 times, whereas this one was just once. So yeah, that's my range trade. Thanks.